And I decided to do Hakafos. Last week we did Avinu Malkeinu, and I found no material. I started to do Hakafos, and Hakafos I found more than enough. There's plenty of Scheda on Hakafos. Now, I prepared to copy for you a mimer from the Rebbe, I think Tafshin Mem Dalid, which explains Hakafos very nicely, but I left those pages at home, so we're going to have to do without them. I'll tell you the gist of those, that mimer as we go along. But the first source of Hakafos is in Zayir, in Teresh Baal Peh. Hakafos is an old minig. How old a minig it is? It's not as old as Hoshainus. Hoshainus is also Hakafos. You go around the Origin, they used to go around the Mizbeach. But Hoshainus is a minig Nevi'im. Hakafos Simchas Torah, I think, is from later. And the source for Hakafos is the Zayir. The Zayir speaks about the idea of Hakafos. It's brought in Kisvi Harizal. Even Misnagdim do Hakafos. I have in my house several Sadurim from the Gra. It's interesting how the Gra used to dance Hakafos. But what's interesting about it is there seems to be no... The Gra danced with the Sefer Torah, but the Psukim that we have and the whole Seder of Hakafos, it doesn't seem to have had. It was very simple. But this is the Zayar. So let's read the Zayar. It's talking about Shmini Atzeres, and I'm reading the words that I underlined, 4 lines from the top. V'neagin lemebad Yisrael Amo. The custom is that the Jewish people make chedva, a joy, v'eskriya Simchas Torah, and they call it Simchas Torah, page 1. Uma'atan Sefer Torah b'kesadalei. They wrap the Sefer Torah with its crown, which was remez. It is a hint. Sefer Torah l'tiferes shchinto, or ateres tiferes. It's a hint that the Sefer Torah is the crown of the Shechina, or in other words, the idea that tiferes is a crown. In other words, by putting a crown on a Sefer Torah, we're hinting that the Torah is the crown of the Shechina. According to Kabbalah, Shechina is a lower madrege, and Kodesh is a higher madrege. So the Torah is the crown of the Shechina. And just to share with you an insight that I remember when I was growing up all the years, they used to take the crowns of the Sefer Torah for very practical reasons. Number 1, the crowns block. Number 2, the crowns break. And number 3, the crowns are expensive. And I don't remember what year it was, but the Rebbe said, why take the crowns of the Sefer Torah? And I understand why, because the Zohar specifically emphasizes the need to put the crowns in the Sefer Torah, and from that point on, every year at the Simchas Torah, every single crown had to be fixed. They would break, Pashat, and they're not made to be bounced around. But this is the Mokar of Hakafos. It says in Zohar they're supposed to dance with the Sefer Torah for Hakafos. Now, there are... With the crowns. There are many, many explanations for the inyan of Hakafos. And one of them is a maimah from the Rebbe. I think it's Tafshin Mem Dalad, Lahava Inyan Simchas Torah. Unfortunately, I don't have the text with you. So I'm going to share with you the spirit of that maimah. Because I really don't want to talk about Hakafos tonight. I'll talk about Hakafos, with the help of a lot of entities, including the Eivishter, next year. I want to talk about Ataresa, the psukim of Hakafos. But in order to talk about the Ataresa, the psukim of Hakafos, you have to at least briefly give an overview of the Hakafos themselves. And the question is very simple. If you want to honor a baseball player, how would you honor a baseball player? By making a symphony? I don't think so. If you wanted to honor a baseball player by making a baseball game or some kind of a baseball display, if you wanted to honor a mathematician, you wouldn't honor a mathematician by doing a performance. You would honor a mathematician by discussing mathematics. If you want to honor the Torah, learn it. Right? What do we do instead? We close the Sefer Torah up, we tie it with a gartel, and we dance with the Sefer Torah. Like the previous Rebbe says, the Lashon Desiches, the Sefer Torah has no feet. The Sefer Torah is a very great thing, but the Sefer Torah does not have feet. A Yid becomes the feet of the Sefer Torah. A Yid becomes the feet of the Sefer Torah. And I have a personal comment based on nothing other than my own personal opinion. As you know, the Chabad custom that when you do Glila, you tie the gartel very low on the Sefer Torah. You're aware of that, right? They always make you lower it, right? What's the reason? Nobody knows. Most people tie it in the middle or even on the top.
Looks more natural.
We're in the middle.
It's under the stomach.
It should be on the center.
No.
What do you mean?
Saying the garter looks more natural when it's under the stomach.
When it's under the stomach, but the sefer Torah is not overweight. Okay. Now, the irony is that when it comes to a gartel that a person puts on, Lubavitch wears the gartel higher than everybody. Most people, like you said, wear the gartel below the stomach. The correct place to put the gartel at the end of the elbows. This is how the Ken Gadol wore it. Tachas Atzila, right over here. And the reason for this is very simple. Because in everybody's stomach there's a mechitza. It's called a diaphragm. It separates between the upper portion of the body, where you have the lungs and the heart, and the lower, which is called the Ivari Nishima, breath, and below the diaphragm, where you have the Ivari Hazon, digestion, the metabolic processes, and so forth. So there's a mechitza. So the person is divided into three parts: the mayach, the lev, and the kavod. So there's two gatlach, right? There's a gatl that you wear around your neck. We call that a necktie, right? Some people wear it on top of their head. I'm saying that tongue in cheek. You don't have to put a gatl on your neck. The meitzah agoran, the narrowness of the neck, provides its own separation. And you have a separation between the upper half of the torso and the lower half of the torso, which separates between the higher emotions and the lower emotions. Chagas and nehi. If you put the gatl down below, so you're not making that separation. In the Lashon Halacha, if a person wears a nightshirt and doesn't have anything on underneath, you can't make a bracha because you have to make a separation between the lev, between the heart, and the erva. This is why you make a gatl.
Why is the waist not?
Because the waist is beneath the Ivari Hazan, the limbs, the processes of digestion, and you want to separate the higher emotions from lower emotions. If a sefer Torah has no legs, that means the sefer Torah does not have the lower third of the person. There's no nihi by sefer Torah. So you put...
Well, it has a head?
The expression is it has no feet. If it has no feet, that connotes, it indicates that it has everything else. So for the same reason, we, in a person, would put the gatl higher and sefer Torah put the gatl lower, to indicate there's more below the sefer Torah that's not the sefer Torah. What's not the sefer Torah is the yid. We're the legs. We're the bottom third of the sefer Torah. If we would put the gatl higher on the sefer Torah, that means we're making within the sefer Torah itself a separation between the higher aspect of the sefer Torah and the lower aspect of the sefer Torah. By putting it lower on the sefer Torah, we're indicating that the sefer Torah does not have the whole 10 sfiras, doesn't have the whole scheme. It only has the upper 2/3. And by putting the gatl lower, we're indicating the idea that the sefer Torah's upper 2/3 is the first third. The last third is the beginning of the second third. And everything else a yid provides. A yid carries sefer Torah. And a yid dances sefer Torah. He becomes the legs of the sefer Torah. This is how the previous rebbe describes it. And this is my comment. You can take it or leave it. No one is bound by my personal whims, but this is a gefühl that I've had for a very long time. You were saying?
No, you're saying do we make separation to make, but no separation between Mayach and Lev, but
the way I understand it, there's no right. The way I understand it is that the 2/3 of the sefer Torah would represent the upper third of a person. In other words, the Chabad. And beneath the gatl would be the beginning of the second third. And everything else a yid provides. This is the way I would understand it. But I may be completely wrong. As opposed to if you put it higher, that means the sefer Torah has the lower madregas as well. And the idea that the Rebbe proposes is a yid is mashal sefer Torah. But you don't learn it. You close it up, you tie it to the gatl, and you dance. And of course, when it comes to dancing, all men are equal. There's no such thing as a Rabbi tanzt nicht besser wie a Pashto nicht verkehrt. Sometimes the simplest Jews can outdance the big Talmidei Chachamim. And of course, the way Chassidus explains it is the answer to this question is simply this: if Torah were simply an intellectual book, then you're right. The way to celebrate Sefer Torah is by opening up and studying it. You honor a book of knowledge, you study it, right? But Sefer Torah has a godly dimension, has a transcendent dimension, has a godliness in it. And when we celebrate the gift of Torah, we do not celebrate the gift of the wisdom of the Torah, which is called the Acherayim, the back, the rear, the secondary aspect. We celebrate the godliness of Torah, which is called the Panim. The godliness of the Torah we can't celebrate with our mind. Our mind is limited, and godliness is infinite. But with our legs we can. When a Jew goes out of its limitations and he dances in Simchas Torah with an incredible overflowing joy, there's more expression of the bleak gvul of the neshama in that than in learning the Torah. And this is why Simchas Torah, you close the Sefer Torah up and you dance with the Sefer Torah to underscore that what we're celebrating is not the ideas of the Torah, but the light of the Torah, the godliness of the Torah. And the same, by the way, is true also on Shavuos. What's the Hasidic custom on Shavuos? We say tikkun. The only thing we all know about tikkun is that it's not very constructive. Tikkun means a correction. You can't learn when you're saying tikkun, because you start something and you change the subject, you start something else and you change the subject, you read 3 psukim of this, 4 psukim of that, 1 mishnah here, 1 ma'amar chazal of here, shtickles there, dot. There's no, it doesn't really intellectually allow you to get very stimulated. And Chassidus explains the same notion. The idea is that on Shavuos we're celebrating not the ideas of the Torah, but the oisius ha-Torah, the godliness of the Torah. And the godliness of the Torah is celebrated through the words. Okay? In other words, Simchas Torah is a day that we rejoice in the fact that God gave us Himself, His godly light in the Torah. And we celebrate dafka berikudim beraglaim, dafka dancing with our feet and so forth. Okay? Now, we'll talk about Hakafos. Why there's 7 Hakafos on Hashem Mashiach, all these things. It's a different time, not now. But before we do Hakafos, say psukim. Right? Ataris ladas. The idea of doing a mitzvah and saying psukim is not so uncommon. Right? We coming 2 weeks ago was Tkiyas. Before Tkiyas, you said psukim, and a mitzvah. You make a bris. Before you say the bris, you make a psukim and say Achei Temimim. And there are many mitzvahs. In addition to doing the act, you say psukim. And api Kabbalah, api Pnimis Yaram, this is the idea of a bracha. Whenever you do a mitzvah, along with the mitzvah comes a bracha. Even those mitzvahs that don't have psukim associated with the mitzvah, the bracha of the mitzvah is al derech din psukim. I'm not going to go into this at all. What's the source for this in Torah? Where do you have an example in the Chumash where you do a mitzvah and it's not enough to do the act, you have to say psukim? Bikurim. What's bikurim? Maybe v'koyre. You bring a gift to the Beis Hamikdash, you give it to the kohen, you put it down, and you say, Aram Yovedavi, right? And now the Eibush has given me all these wonderful brachas, so I'm thanking the Eibush for my brachas. So, it says, I saw this in the Maimer, that bikurim is the makir in Chumash for the idea that when you do a mitzvah, along with doing the mitzvah, you say psukim. Now, by bikurim, the psukim come after. First you do the mitzvah, and then you say the psukim, right? By shofar, how is it by shofar? You say 8 psukim before, Aminut, and 30 psukim after. Psukim malchus, the ched shofar, right? So most of the psukim by shofar are after the tikiyah shofar. By Hakafos, the psukim are before. Obviously, every single detail in each one of these mitzvahs is precise. There's a reason why by Bikur and the psukim are after, by Shofar some are before and some are after, and by Hakafos the psukim are all before. But without getting into that aspect of why some are before, some are after, what is the reason we say psukim? This is what Chassidus asks. Why do you say psukim before? And the short answer to the question is Torah Oyer. What Torah does is it reveals. And since when you do a mitzvah, especially when you do a mitzvah like Hakafos, where the whole mitzvah is dancing with your feet, not because it's an external mitzvah, but because you're giving out your essence. If you want to celebrate the Eibishter's Torah, the only way to celebrate the Torah adequately is with the feet, because studying it is always going to diminish the Ein Sof of the Torah. And fakert, rikot baraglaim, dancing with your feet, will communicate the true infinite connection between you and the Torah. The problem with infinity, or what we call in our culture, the problem with Atzmus, is that it's hidden. So Simchas Torah may be the deepest godliness, but the deepest godliness is unknown. So you say psukim. And the purpose of the psukim is to be magala. I'm sorry, I'll get that soon. The idea of the psukim is to reveal. In other words, if on Simchas Torah we dance, and the purpose of dancing on Simchas Torah is that we're celebrating the essence connection between Yid and Hashem through the Torah. the purpose of saying the psukim first is that this connection shouldn't remain something which is hidden, but should actually have an expression in a revealed way. This is the significance of saying psukim. So before we go to the Hakafos, we say Atares. What I do want to discuss with you is the 17 psukim of Atares. And I found for the Rebbe, Mamish from Tafshin and Beis, where the Rebbe went through all 17 psukim in an absolutely beautiful, very, 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 very geschmack, glorious way, where the Rebbe goes through all the 17 psukim of Atares. And I want to go through them. I'll be saying that one by one. We'll go through the 17 psukim and we'll analyze the pshat and the psukim. Just a shtickle remez. I found in Siddur Marid. He has a whole hezbollah on Teresa, and it's very. Siddur Marid was from the idea rebbe with some tzaddik Saneinikal, who writes that the word hekif, hey kuf pei, is 185. 185 is a gematria kale. Right? How much is Aleph and Lamed? 31. It doesn't exactly work, right? But if you write out Aleph, it's 121. And if you write out Lamed, it's 74. 74. Lamed is 74. Lamed, 74 and 121 is 185. Gaat richtig? Hekif. Kuf and Pei is 185. So I must be with a Yud. Hekif with a Yud is 195. And when you write out Aleph and Lamed, which is Aleph is 111. I'm standing correct. Aleph is 111. And Lamed is 74. 74 and 111 is 185. So he connects the word Hekif and Hakafos to the same Kale, to the Eibishter's name El, Aleph Lamed. And he goes into a whole explanation of Pikabola. The essence of what he says is that the meaning of the Eibishter's name Kale is to reveal the whole truth of Hashem. To be Megala, to reveal the whole truth of the Eibishter. And this is the foundation, this is the basis of how we're going to explain the psukim of Atares. Okay, what I want to do tonight with you is I want to go through the 17 psukim of Atares and link them to Hakafos. I'm going to link them to Hakafos. Now, it's Tishrei, correct? It's Tishrei. What happens in Tishrei? Everyone knows what happens in Tishrei. We're very busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. In Tishrei, we're very busy. Tishrei, we're full of mitzvahs, full of holy things. But according to Chassidus, what's happening in Tishrei is not simply that we're doing a lot of things, but if you will, we're going to a lot of places. In other words, during the month of Tishrei, we are in a different level than we are all year. We're in a different space, spiritual space. Because Hashem puts us into a different spiritual space. Right? I'll give you the way I like to say it, even though it's a little bit going on a limb, but it's not going on a limb too much. Elul, the king, is in the field. Right? The Yom Neroim, the peasants are in the palace. Right? He visited us, and we visit him. Instead of spending 30 days, spend 10 days. Motzei Yom Kippur, the king tells us to go home. But we don't leave. We celebrate. We celebrate the fact that we were with the king in the palace. And that's what Sukkot is. And that's what Simchas Torah is. And Chassidus teaches us that when Sukkot comes, and especially when Simchas Torah happens, and we express incredible Simcha, the Simcha we're expressing is revealing the experience of having been as peasants in the king's palace. If for the 10 days of Tshuva we're in the king's palace, in Sukkot we're expressing in joy that experience. Let's say it in other words. The whole Tishrei, including Simchas Torah, has to do with Yechidus Nefesh, Pinta L'Yid. The whole assumed space of a Yid is in a much higher level. We're going to close the Sefer Torah up, we're going to dance with the Torah. What we are saying in this dancing, what we are saying in this Simcha, is we're giving out, we are articulating, we're revealing the Yechidus Nefesh, which achieves the highest point of seriousness on Yom Kippurim, is being expressed in the highest point of Simcha on Simchas Torah. So Simchas Torah is the end of Tishrei. It's the greatest Gila, the greatest revelation, the greatest Simcha of Tishrei. And what we're expressing is the Inyan Yechidus Nefesh. We're not coming to the Eibishter and saying him, thank you for these brilliant ideas, for these beautiful svaras, for this great lumdas. We're coming to the Eibishter, we're saying, thank you for giving us yourself. Thank you for giving us godliness, and we do it through the Simcha of Hakafos. And before we say Hakafos, we say Psukim of Atareisa. So all the Biyurim, not Atareisa, all of them, come down to one thing and say as follows. We're saying Psukim of Atareisa. The Psukim of Atareisa are the expression of what's happening by Hakafos. Whatever is happening by Hakafos is articulated in the 17 Psukim of Atareisa. And of course, you know that Emes, 17 is B'Gematria Toiv. It's also a Remez in itself, B'Gematria Toiv, and it says in Chassidus, it's connected, the Marid brings it down, it's connected to Yosef HaTzadik, whose Inyan is Toiv, a whole long story. But the Psukim of Atareisa are going to say in words, the event is happening by Hakafos. You're going to dance by Hakafos. What are you doing? Look at the Psukim of Atareisa. And in short, what the Psukim of Atareisa say, that we're describing a complete or a very high level of expression and revelation of the Eibishter. That's the spirit of Atareisa. That's the idea. If I can repeat what I said in different words. But I'll speak on a kudah, but I'll say it in different words, you'll get an appreciation of it from a different point of view. There's the ordinary life of a Jew. The ordinary life of a Jew is I have to schlep myself. Because if no one's going to schlep me, I'm going to go nowhere. The ordinary life of a Jew is, for all intents and purposes, limited. Of course, Hashem helps. But the ordinary life of a Jew means whatever connection to the Eibush that I have, I've created. Then there's the extraordinary life of a Jew, the special life of a Jew. The special life of a Jew is Shabbos. The special life of a Jew is Yom Tiv. The special life of a Jew means a Jew's connection to the Eibush is not defined by the Jew. A Jew's connection to the Eibush is defined by the Eibush. Hashem gives us koiches. We start off on a higher plane. So when you start off on a higher plane, there's a higher presumed space. Simchas Torah is the end of Tishrei. So if it's the end of Tishrei, it is the ultimate expression of special time. In other words, the highest gift the Eibishter gives us in our connection to Him is Simchas Torah. The act of Simchas Torah is dancing with the Sefer Torah. And the psukim of the Simchas Torah express that we're revealing an incredibly high light, because it's not us dragging ourselves. It's not us serving Hashem with our own koiches. It's us serving Hashem with the koiches that the Eibishter gives us. This is the spirit of the Psukim Atareis. So the Rebbe has this Sikha from Tafshin and Beis, where it's on page 11, where the Rebbe goes through all the 17 Psukim of Atareis. And he says, if I may say so, basically 2 points. He says, point number 1. Atareis aladas means Hashem is revealing Himself in an uncompromised way. Hashem is revealing the ganze Atzvus Nebishter. Hashem is revealing the whole self. Point number 2, what are we supposed to do about the fact that we find ourselves in Golus and we're not Kalim for it? So the way it breaks down is as follows. From the Pasuk Atareisa until the Pasuk Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimlech, which is I guess the first 8 or 9 psukim, 7 or 8 psukim, he's describing what Hashem is giving us. Beginning with the Pasuk Hashem Ois, the psukim begin to address the fact that we're not in the space of Atareisa. Okay, it happens to be Simchas Torah. There is supposed to be these great revelations, but we're not there. And the psukim of Atareisa proceed to describe how Hashem deals with the fact that we are not present when these great revelations are taking place. And the Atareisa finishes with the fervent belief and the fervent hope that one day we will be there. So this is the way the Rebbe explains the psukim. Number 1, the Rebbe says what Atareisa means. By Hakafos is an incredible revelation of Hashem. Number 2, the Jew says, wait a minute, maybe to the great revelation of the Eibishter, I'm not there. And the Eibishter, so to speak, says, I will give you the koiches to be there. And number 3, we say, eventually we'll get there and we'll have those great revelations. So this is the spirit of the Psukim of Atareisa. And let's do this. Start on page 2, and let's push it tight. Let's tight. Let's read and translate the Psukim of Atareisa. Okay, and like I said to you, this is an unofficial pledge. The next year we'll talk about Hakafos. But I want to talk about the Atareisa. These are the 17 Psukim that, there's different customs, by the way, but this is the custom that we have, and incidentally, some people don't do Hakafos Shmini Atzeres. We do Hakafos. Some people don't say Atareisa 3 times. Some people don't say Atareisa 3 times the Shmini Atzeres. We say Atareisa 3 times, also Shmini Atzeres by night. We also say Psukim Ufaratz and other things. So Yid comes to Hakafos, and he says, you revealed yourself so you should be known. You showed yourself to us that we should know you. And what do you want us to see and know? That the Eibishter is one. In other words, the godliness of Hashem and the concealment of Hashem are one and the same thing. And therefore, there's nothing without Hashem. Even though Elokim hides the Eibishter, because Havai Hu Elokim, the truth of the matter is that everything is one. La'esin iflois gedelis, Hashem does incredible miracles, wonders, levade, that only He knows about. Kiliyolim chaste, because He gives His kindness to the world. And part of the kindness that He gives to the world is that the true wonder of His miracles remains a secret. How could the Eibishter do that? And the answer is, there's nobody like the Eibishter. The Eibishter, nobody could do His deeds, and His deeds allow that He should be able to reveal such an incredible godliness to the world. And then we say, that the honor of Hashem should be revealed in the world. And how was this accomplished? Through Yismach Hashem b'masav, through the joy of the Eibishter. We'll talk about this soon. And Shem Avayim Aveirach, that the name of Hashem should be brought down me'ata, from the place called now v'adayim, into the worlds. Okay, and then we continue. The Eibishter should be with us. This is a prayer. Kasher hoyim aveseinu, as with our ancestors, al yadzveinu al yichenu, He should never abandon us. And the way the Rebbe is going to explain it, you'll see it soon, is that when we do Ato Haresa, we are continuing a tradition which existed from before us. Ve'imru, and we say together as many. Ve'imru l'shan rabim, Hishyeinu elokei Yishenu. Help us, our God of Yishenu, of salvation. V'kapteinu, and collect us, v'tzaleinu, and save us min hagoyim, from the goyim, lohedas l'shem kadeshecha, so we should acknowledge the Eibishter's holy name, l'shtabeich b'silasecha, and we should be praised in His revelation or in His praise. And then we say, Hashem Melech, Hashem is a king, Hashem Melech, Hashem has been a king, Hashem Yimech, Hashem should be king for always. This is the first part of Ataresa. These psukim are describing the ideal Hakafos. Hashem reveals Himself, and a Yid is experiencing this great revelation. And the different psukim are talking about different aspects of what it means Hashem reveals Himself, as you'll see soon. Then, of course, comes the problem. I'm not there, I'm in Golos. So the teretz is, Hashem Eiz Lama Yitin, Hashem gives us koyach to show up to the Hakafos. How could this be? Because the Hashem Yevarach Hasam B'Shalom, Hashem gives us the gift of peace, and by giving us the gift of peace, we're able to entail two opposites. And then we ask as a prayer, in other words, considering that we're in Golos, we say, please, Eibishter, accept Amareinu, our words, in a desirable way, Lifnei Adein Kel, before the Eibishter. In other words, that this wish that we have, that we should be Zoichet to experience the Giluim of the Hakafos, should be received by the Eibishter. Okay, and then we say V'hi ben say Ha'arin, when I suppose how the Rebbe would explain it, when Mashiach comes, and when even the Torah is in a state of motion, the Torah is moving, V'yevim Mesha says, Kumad Hashem, get up Eibishter, V'yavutzu Eivecha, and whatever it is, scatter your enemies, those who hate you should run away from you. Kumo ad Hashem lemenuchasecha, Hashem should stand up to His resting place, Atav Arinu Zecha, the Eibishter and the Arin, which is, again, it's describing how the Eibishter comes into this world, and when Mashiach comes, the Eibishter comes into this world, so, Kainecha Yilbushu Tzedek, the Kainim will wear tzedakah, V'chasidecha Yiranenu, and your Chasidim will sing. And Ba'avor David goes into Leviim, because Ba'avor David Avdecha, because the servant David, Al Tashab Te'im B'Shechach, not turn away Mashiach. I don't know why, but this pasuk is connected to the Leviim. And then we say, V'Omer, and we're going to say B'Yemehu, when Mashiach comes, Hi Ni'elakeinu Zeh, this is our God. Kivinu Lei, we waited for Him. V'Yeshenu, when He saved us, this is our God. Kivinu Lei, waited for Him. And now Nagil of Nisbech V'Shuaseh, let us rejoice in His salvation. And therefore we announce, Mashiach comes, Hashem is in fact the king over the whole world, which means that even though in other generations He may have only been a Moishel, a dictator, now He's a Melech. And we finish, Ki mitzion teitzei Seder. Once Mashiach comes from Tzion, from Yerushalayim will come Teira, or Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim, the words come from Yerushalayim. And these are the psukim. Now the next shtikele is a prayer, is a tefillah, the Rebbe calls it. Aza Avarachman, Father of mercy, Heitiva, be good, b'tzaynecha with your desire, as Tzion with Tzion, which is the Pnimis of Yerushalayim. Tivna Chemis Yerushalayim, build the walls of Jerusalem. Ki v'chol levatcha v'tachnu, Only in you we have trust. Melech, a king, Kel Ram Vanisa, who is exalted and uplifted, the Daniel Lam, who is also the master of the world.
When do you say Avraham?
Each time. As soon as you finish the Atareis, you say Avarachamim. And then starts the dancing, as it were. Okay, so this is the Psukim of Atareis.
Another pasuk that everyone says that's not inside.
V'hoya zaracha.
Why isn't that inside?
Because it's not part of the Siddur. It's not the Alter Rebbe wrote the Siddur. This is something that the Rebbe added, that we should say Ufaratzta 3 times. And the Rebbe speaks about it in the Sikha. Now what I want to do is I want to learn the Sikha with you. Okay? If you don't mind ripping stacks, separate the Ataharesa, separate the first 2 sheets, in other words. So you'll have them side by side. I made 5 copies, so you can, however you wish to do it. It'll be very helpful to look back and forth between the Psukim of Ataharesa and the parts of the Sikha that we're learning. Okay, now, Tafshin and Beis, as you all know, I'm sure, page 11, not this, 11, was a tkufa when the whole shturim of the Rebbe was Mashiach. So the Rebbe says, Ataharesa means that the true revelation of Hashem doesn't happen until Mashiach comes. This is how he explains it. But in a microcosm, in a small way, Ataharesa das happens every year, Simchas Torah. Okay, so this is how we have to understand it. Simchas Torah, Jew is in a special space. The king was in the field. The peasants were in the palace. And before the peasants went home, they're making a celebration. The end of that celebration, the highest point of that celebration is Simchas Torah. In other words, we are incredibly in touch with the Eibush of Simchas Torah, as they state in the Sfarim. Now, what's written on our hearts, what we're experiencing consciously, that depends on how much we invest in Simchas Torah and how tuned in we remain, how consistent we are, so we can be there on Simchas Torah. We're dancing with the Torah. Dancing with our feet with the Torah is expressing, so to speak, the Ein Sof of the Torah with the Ein Sof of our feet. And we want to explain this Ein Sof with the Psukim. And we start off with the Pasuk. The first Pasuk says, Ata Haresa Ladas. You revealed yourself, so you should be known by us. That the Eibishter, who's the revealed aspect of godliness, is also Elakim, the concealed aspect of godliness. Besides for Eibishter, there is nothing. Okay? So, like I said to you before, the Rebbe links it specifically to Mashiach, and he says that the highest level of Ataharesa is not going to happen until Mashiach comes, but the Rebbe says each year the Ataharesa happens on a higher level. So page 11, 194, the 4th paragraph. Ukfisha move on me. The Rebbe says every year when Ataharesa happens, it's on a higher level than it was before. And it's understood from the fact that now also. Anytime a Jew says, you reveal yourself, so we should see that the Eibishter and the world are one. Hashem learns it with us. In other words, Hashem says again, that Hashem shows himself into the world. If Hashem says it's understood. Each time we say Hashem says and when we in the Eibush say the occurs. In other words, Hashem reveals himself into the world. Okay? Like when the Eibush gave us the Torah the first time. Then when Hashem spoke to Torah, He revealed Himself. And each time a Jew says Ataharesa, the Eibush is Ataharesa with him. And Ataharesa means that Hashem reveals His essence. In the Hayom Yom, it says Ataharesa, that says Atadu Atzmusam Hus Hareitza Tzich Bavizn. So Dasam is all their wissen. What's unusual about the word Ata? What is the unusual idea when you call Hashem you? I mean, some would say it's not so respectful, yeah. It's not a name. Right? You're not saying Hashem herei saladas or Hashem heras atzmai sheneideehu. At the herei saladas. You. So it says in Chassidus that when you call Hashem not by a name, but in first person or second person, right? What's first person? Ani and Anoichi. What's second person? Ata or lefanecha. What's third person? Who. When you call Hashem by not a name, you're talking to Him mamish. The name they're talking about, the different in Yonah that Hashem reveals. Ata Arei Sadas, you're saying to the Eibush that you revealed yourself at Har Sinai. And when we say Ata Arei Sadas, and Hashem's Ata Arei Sadas, it happens again. So we open up with the Psukim of Hakafos by establishing what's happening tonight. It's the end of Tishrei. And I saw that Marid brings down, it's the 23rd day in Tishrei. What's the Cheshbon? 22 days, the 22 aces of the Aleph Beis, as he's Okter. Simchas Teda is number 23. You've transcended, you've gone beyond even the aces of the Aleph Beis. Now it's the true Ein Sof, the Bligavol, the oil of the Eibush that's being revealed in Simchas Teda. We are doing it with the dancing. And the Psukim are defining what's taking place. Hashem has always revealed Himself, and this year, this Simchas Teda, Hashem is revealing Himself that we should know the truth of Hashem. Okay? Now the question becomes, if Hashem reveals His truth, how could we get it? So the pasuk, the rebbe continues, last paragraph on page 194. Hashem is responding to us. This is what it means. When Hashem reveals Himself as a response to our saying Ata Hareisa, who b'hagbala has to be limited, lefi hakeneged elamata to the way we say it. We therefore say the second pasuk in Ata Hareisa. What's the second pasuk in Ata Hareisa? Hashem does great wonders that only He knows about them, because His kindness is in relationship with the world. Translates the Rebbe. Hashem reveals Ata, His essence, to the world, but even the niflois, as it's a wonder. Not only is it a wonder that Hashem reveals Himself to the world, but niflois gedelis, it's a great wonder. Moreover, l'niflois gedelis lavade. Hashem reveals Himself to the world as such an incredible wonder that lavade. What does lavade mean? So the Rebbe quotes the Lashon Gemara, Kedosh Gemara bazeh ein balanes makeh b'nisei. We don't realize how great a miracle it is. Look at this. Hashem is revealing Himself to us that we should know Him. Immediately puts a stipulation. If Hashem is revealing Himself to us that we should know Him, He can only reveal what we're able to know. If we can only we're able to know, then it's not Him. It's like the pasuk, no. Hashem does an act which is such a great pele that only He knows. What is that act? Hashem reveals the truth of who He is to us, and we get it. Verstehst? Because if means Hashem is showing Himself to us, and we get it, it should be limited. So the next pasuk says Hashem is giving to us the truth of Himself. How can Hashem give the truth of Himself to us and we should be able to receive it? That's a separate miracle. Okay, and how could that be take? How could Hashem pull it off? So you get to the third pasuk. What's the third pasuk? There's nobody like you, Hashem. Nobody can do like your actions. So on page 195, the second full paragraph and the third full paragraph, the Rebbe explains this idea. First he says, "Ein kamecha balakim" means malachim. Hashem is no malach like the Eibush. But that is Ein kamecha balakim. Hashem means that there's no body like the alakus of the Eibush in His relationship with the world. Okay, and what he says is like this: Ve'ein zu stira klal. Do you see what I'm reading? Page 195, third paragraph. There's no contradiction between Hashem revealing and Hashem revealing the whole truth by forming the flows of Lavade. There's nobody like the Eibishter. Nobody can do like His actions. He can bring together opposites. What are the two opposites? The mitzadecha, it's Ata Hareisa. Hashem is revealing the whole truth, and mitzad hasheni, we are receiving the whole truth. How could the Eibishter do that? Because ein kamecha b'lakim ad Hashem. And the intricacies and the details are not that important. The bottom line is the Eibishter has a keich hatzimtzum. In other words, the infinity of Hashem is not necessarily expressed in infinity, being overwhelmed. The infinity of Hashem is expressed in what's called in Chassidus Hein Hein Gvaroisef. The Eibishter's ability to crunch himself, to contain the whole Bli Gavul in a capsule, in a small space. So the Eibishter's Koyach HaTzimtzum and Kamecha Belikim, which is a shame of Gevura, and Hashem, which is also of a shame of Gevura, affects that Hashem should be able to perform such a wonder that there should be a revelation of Hashem to us, and it should be the whole truth of Hashem. Next paragraph, Umemela Muvan, and we therefore understand, She'ain Pella, it's not beyond comprehension or beyond possibility, Keitzad Nimshach La'olam, how Hashem could give to the world Chaste, His true infinite kindness, Chaste Hanifla Kanal, because Hashem could bring together two opposites, and therefore the believable of Hashem could be tolerated by a Jew if Hashem so desires. And this is what happens in Hakafos. Now the next two psukim simply articulate it. Right? What do the first three psukim tell us? Hashem reveals himself, and we get it. Yet it's the whole bli gvul of the Eibishter, because the Eibishter could do two opposites. So what is the bottom line? The bottom line is, next paragraph, pasuk daled of the 17 psukim, Yehi chavei davaya liyelu. That the kvei davaya, the glory of Hashem, should be revealed into the world, and yismach ad Hashem b'maisav, the Eibishter should rejoice in his creations. So this is how the Rebbe translates it. V'zeu gam hahemshech. You see where I am? You see 3 paragraphs from the bottom. The incredible things that are included in the words Kved Hashem, the glory of Hashem, revealed to the world, because Hashem can do these two opposites. However, it's enhanced when you have the Inyan HaSimcha. This is achieved especially we serve Hashem with joy. So the Rebbe here uses the word Yismach in 2 ways. When is all of these revelations fully revealed into the world? Yismach, with this Inyan HaSimcha. Now the Pashat, the Pshat and the Simcha is, the Eibishter is happy. Yismach Hashem b'mais, the joy of the Eibishter. Okay? But the Rebbe says Hashem is joyous because we are. The Bekivan Shesimcha Peretzes Kol HaTaimim V'Agdorim V'Medidas V'Agbolas. Joy breaks all limitations. As a result, Nimshacham Kol Anyonim Ad Lamata Mata b'maisav. The Bli Gvul of Hashem can be brought to the lowest madrega. Turn to page 12, please. Okay, the second paragraph. V'zehu yismach Hashem b'maisav. This is how Hashem rejoices. Shaydei maisav shalai Yehudi lamata. Through the acts of a Jew down here, and specifically the joy of the Jew down here, who pales simcha b'ad Hashem, he makes Hashem be in a state of joy. Okay, v'neisav moreover gam hu atzmei samach b'maisav. A Jew himself rejoices in what he accomplishes. Okay, this is Yismach Hashem b'maisav. Hashem rejoices in what He created, but Hashem, the way the Rebbe says it, Hashem also rejoices in His creation. But we rejoice together with the Eibishter. So the way you would read these psukim is as follows. We understand that Hakafos means Agili Ha'atzmus, and even though it's Agili Ha'atzmus, because of Hashem's ability to mechaber hofchim, that Atzmus reaches us. One of the things we do to facilitate that possibility is serving Hashem Yitech Simcha, which creates a simcha in the Eibishter. And by the way, in Kabbalah, whenever you talk about the Eibishter's joy, joy means revelation. So Yichved Hashem L'Yelam through Yismach, the simcha makes it possible to create this bringing together of opposites. 2 paragraphs down, 3 paragraphs from the bottom. The name of the Eibishter should be, Mevarach means to bless, right? But blessing God is a funny concept. I'm sure you've thought about this many times. When you're blessing God, I bless, gebenchos to thine Eibishter. Mevarach means to bring down. Me'ata from whatever space he's in Vad Eilam into the world. In other words, Sheshem Avaya Mevarach v'nimshach. That the Eibishter's name is drawn down. Parenthesis. Bracha miloshen havracha v'amshacha, to bring down. Me'ata v'ad, from whatever level it is, biz Eilam, which means Be'el Mazah Gashmi. So these 2 psukim, Yichved Hashem L'Yelam, and Yismach Hashem b'maisav, and Yishem Hashem v'erech mata v'adeilam, are sort of articulating what the first 3 psukim describe. The first 3 psukim describe Hashem is revealing Himself into the world, and the next 2 psukim say how it comes down into the world. Now comes an interesting idea. We come to Hakafos. We're going to be Sameach b'simchas Torah. We're saying psukim that are going to express that Hashem revealing His essence, and we say another thing. We already did it last year. There's a history of this, and that's the next pasuk. the Rebbe says it more basically. We said the psukim yesterday, and it seems to me that doesn't only mean yesterday; it means in earlier generations. Okay, the second to the last line of that paragraph, Hashem should be with us by these hakafos, as well as our fathers. So the Rebbe's our fathers means yesterday. But l'chayr it means in the past. It's explained in Chassidus what this pasuk means, and the relevant message of this pasuk is as follows: it's Hakafos. There's going to be a revelation of Atzmas Ein Sof. We're ready, we're not ready, we're deserving, we're not deserving. Our parents were deserving. So we're saying here, we're not saying we're doing Hakafos for the first time. We're not coming up with an idea that has no precedent, no history, no past. There's a continuation. So Kasher Hayam Aveseinu, as the Eibishter gave himself to Yidden by Hakafos in last generations, and perhaps for sure, but to a greater degree, Yidden were Caleb. But these Giloyim were saying Hashem should be with us as well. And then we had another thing. What happens when Hashem reveals Himself? What were to happen? What would happen if God would reveal Himself? What would happen if God would reveal Himself? The Eibishter shows Himself, and we say. But let's get to the point. What's going to happen if Hashem reveals Himself? I'll put it to you in simple words. Many becomes one. Right? What is it? Pluribus unum. Many made into one. Right? The Eibishter shows Himself a world of division. In the best of scenarios, a world of division means there's different parts. In the worst of scenarios, a world of division means nobody can get along with anybody. But when the Eibush reveals Himself, it becomes Achdus. And that's the next pasuk. Bottom of page 196. Which is, I don't know what pasuk we're holding, but this is right. There it goes, pasuk by pasuk. Ve'imru. And we should all say together, Hashienu Elokei Yishenu. Save us, the God of our Father. And we speak Lashon Rabbim. Ve'kapteinu, and collect us. Vatzilenu min hagoyim, and save us from the goyim. Lyhadus Hashem kachecha, so we could acknowledge and praise your holy name. L'shtabech b'silasecha, to praise your revelation. It says, Shekulam Yachad, Imru Lashon Rabbim. We speak plurally. And what do we say? Hasheinu v'kapteinu. And the way I understand it is, the effect of the revelation of the Eibishter is that first of all, we all speak together as many, and eventually become one single voice. And the Rebbe says, Hatzaleinu min hagoyim. If the Eibishter reveals Himself, Hatzaleinu min hagoyim can't possibly mean to save us from danger. And he says in the next paragraph, the second to the last paragraph on page, second to the last line, Hatzalam Losh Nafrosh. Hatzaleinu min hagoyim means keep us separate from the goyim. The Eibishter is going to reveal Himself, and for this fact, now it's going to be different. So Mashiach is going to come. Hashem reveals Himself. The effect is many become one. Third paragraph, page 197. Okay? Hashem Melech. Hashem is a king. And of course, we say not only Hashem is a king, no, Hashem Melech, Hashem is always a king. Next paragraph, but the most important thing is Hashem should be the king over the world forever. And by the way, I want to translate. Hashem Yimlech Leilam Vad. Had a push to touch. Hashem Yimlech, Hashem should king. What's such a lo olam? Lo olam does not mean forever. Lo olam means to the worlds. Hashem is already the king. Lo olam, as ein melech in Welt. Zu der Welt. Was meint Vod? Vod is bechilufei asfen echad. Baruch Shem kei b'chusay lo olam Vod. Same thing. Vod is the same letters as echad if you manipulate the letters. Vav comes from Aleph, and Ein comes from Ches. So Hashem Yimlech lo olam. Hashem should be melech in the world. Echad, so the world should be one with the Eibishter. So this is the result. This is the result of Atareis Ladas. Okay? So how many psukim did we learn? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? 8 out of 17 is a little bit less than half. These 8 psukim describe what's happening by Hakafos be'emes. Hashem is revealing Himself. And the revelation of the Eibishter is a continuation to early revelations of the Eibishter. And it makes many into one. And it makes the world one with the Eibishter. Now comes the problem. This may all be true, and we may all be in shul, but we're not tapping into it. Tabas says Golos. Right? V'kivan sheka'amor. We say Hashem yimlech le'levad lashon asid in the future. You see what I'm reading? Hainu sha'ata nimtsoyim beintayim bezman ha'golos. We're still in Golos. So Yid has difficulties, right? Look at the last line on the page. Der Geschrei allein darf doch haben Kech. You need koyach to scream. Right? So what's the teretz? Page 198 now. You with me? Page 198. Second paragraph. V'alkach mamshach ha-posek. Adeshem eiz la'mayitei. Der Eibishter get koyach. How could a Yidden Golos have a shaykhs with the Giloim of Atar Eiz Ladas? Adeshem eiz la'mayitei. The Eibishter gives Yidden a koyach that even in Golos they should have the strength to be able to receive the Giloim of Atar Eiz Ladas. That's the Rebbe teaches it. And in the paragraph that I skipped, the Rebbe says that a Yidden Golos is in a state of choyle, sickness. And he explains that Pikapoyle choyle ches vav lamed is 49, which means even a Yid is holding on the 49th gate is also in from choyle. So when it says Hashem oiz amayit, and it means Hashem raises up a Yid to the madrega of the Sharach HaMishim, the 50th gate. So we're in Golos, and even though Ata Reis is occurring, but because we're in Golos, we're not getting it. So the Eibush has to give us a koyach, havaya oiz. Hashem has to give us a koyach to be able to receive it. Continues the Rebbe Yudches.
He says he gives koyach to continue screaming.
That too.
It's koyach to actually feel it?
To experience it, yeah. Ela shekan sheil. The question is, Hashem gives me a koyach that I should experience Atar Eiz Ladas. Mish adayin lefnei ba mitzvah, young kid. Ma shaychusayim kol ha-meduber yoni pnimis ha-teira v'chulu. What does a yid, a poshet child, have to do with Atar Eiz Ladas in Yoram Shar Hanun? He has no idea what they are. Next paragraph. Al zeh mamshach ha-kosa. The teretz is that Hashem yivarach san b'shalom. Hashem gives a yid a bracha. And the bracha that the Eibishter gives a Yid is shalom, peace. What is the idea of peace? Shalom nitna de HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When the Eibishter gives the blessing of peace, harei shalom amiti v'nitzchi, it's true and permanent peace. Okay. Umemelam nasim kol b'nei Yisrael ki ish echad didn't become one. Was misbatlis, and then it breaks down kol ha'agdalos ha'chilukim sheben Yehudi echad ha'mishnei, the difference one Jew and another, and every Jew is nahayis madreges. So Hashem oiz la'mayitin. Hashem gives us a koyach to receive the Atar Eiz Ladas. How could we receive that koyach as Hashem gives us the blessing of shalom? There's a gewaldige sicha from the Rebbe. I think it's in the Rishimis also, but I think it's a sicha also. The Mishnah says in the end of Shas, or the Brais at the end of Shas, the Mishnah says, Loi ma'ata kadosh baruch hu keli machzik bracha li Yisrael ela hashalom. Hashem could not find a vessel, machzik bracha li Yisrael, that could hold the blessing Hashem when you give the people, ela hashalom, only peace. So that has a bunch of questions on this Imam Chazal. One of them is, why does the Mishnah say double negative? Hashem cannot find any keli to hold Hashem's bracha other than shalom. What's that? Lo yimatzah kadosh baruch hu ela shalom. So the Rebbe gives a very beautiful answer. He says like this: Hashem gives us something which is bli gvul, infinite. Something which is infinite cannot be contained in a container, right? There's no keli for bli gvul. So when Hashem gives a bracha, there should not be a keli. Lo yimatzah kadosh baruch hu keli machzor bracha li Yisrael. If Hashem gives a bracha which is bli gvul, it can't have a keli. What's the teretz shalom? Peace, which is rooted in humility. It's not a vessel. It's a bittel. And dafka bittel is a keli for bli gvul. So what allows a yid to receive the Hashem oiz la'amayita? Yid is in Golos, and it's dark, and he learns that Atar Eiz Ladas, it comes like Kofis is Moradik Giluyim. So the Eibishter gives him a koyach to experience those Giluyim, and how does he get there? Because the Eibishter gives him a second blessing, the blessing of Shalom, which means the blessing of bittel, that allows him to receive the Hashem oiz. So with this pasuk, a new union emerges. We start of the Atar Eiz describing the reality of Hakafos. Now we're discussing the practical dimension of Hakafos. Hashem has to give us koyches. We should be able to be by the Hakafos. Umamshich, the last paragraph on the page, with a tefillah. Our words should be received favorably in front of the Eibishter. Okay? And the Rebbe says we don't simply ask Hashem. We add the word no. We say please. That we want that the Eibishter should receive these psukim that we're saying and the requests that we have. And that the truth should be that even though we find ourselves in Golos, the Eibishter should receive our wishes or our tefillas to receive these revelations and give them to us. That's the Rebbe says many different aspects, but this is the nukud of this pasuk. We're davening to the Eibishter in this pasuk that Hashem should make it possible for us to be able to experience the Giluim as Managolos. Okay? So these two psukim, Hashem Meizal Meyitin, Hashem Varach Hashem B'Shalom, and V'yir Nam Areinu L'Aras V'Ein Keil, are presuming that we are not there, and Hashem is going to help us get there, and we're asking Hashem to help us. So far, so good. Now starts the Hebrew say Ha'arid. What happens now? This is step 3 of the Psukim of Atares. If step 1 is telling us the truth of Atares, if step 2 is saying that we're in Golos, so we need the Eibish's help to receive it, step 3 is, okay, the Eibush is going to give it to us. So let's celebrate what we haven't gotten yet. And that's the pasuk of Ibn Seya. Let's read your test. Since we already need the Mashiach, in other words, we say immediately, when the Aron traveled, says, get up, Eibush, your food and you should crush your enemies, and those who hate you should run away from you. We say to every Jew, you already have the new Torah. You have the Aron, and not the Aron that's standing still, but the Aron that's moving. And who is speaking? Moshe Rabbeinu was speaking, and he's speaking to the Eibishter. He's telling the Eibishter that the Eibishter should rise up to a higher space and destroy all the opposition. So in the 2 psukim before, we're articulating that we are not really spiritually by the Hakafos. And now we're saying that the Eibush is going to give us a koyach. In other words, he's giving us the Yinam Mashiach even though we're not there yet. Umamshichim, last paragraph on page 199, we continue. We speak to the Eibush that Hashem should come to a state of rest. In other words, Shemamshichim lamata, we bring into this world. It's menuchas chad HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the, so to speak, state of rest of the Eibishter, like the complete rest of Minchas Shabbos. I don't want to be meidech in this. I want you to turn to page 14, but I'll just tell you very, very big kitzur. We understand that growth is a good thing. We understand that movement, the Aron is traveling, is a positive sign, right? Torah is great. The Aron is even greater, it's the luchas. And Ben Sayah Aron means even this high madrega of the Aron is in a state of motion. It's growing. What's menucha? Rest. The opposite of growth. The continuity of the psukim is there is a concept of reaching a point and there's taking no place beyond it. Kuma avaylam nucha secha means that there should be such a revelation of the Eibishter beyond which there can be no more Ben Sayah Arons. There's no room to grow. You're one with the Eibishter. And one with the Eibishter is all there is. It's the whole truth. So we started off describing the deficiencies of being in Golus and the need for the Eibishter's help. And Toich Kedei Dibur, we describe how it's going to be or how it is B'pnimius when Mashiach comes. First of all, Ben Sayah Ha'aron, there's incredible growth. And then Menucha Secha, that there's a point of which, beyond which there's no growth at all. Page 200, second paragraph. And then we bring it down. Right? We describe what the truth of Simchas Torah is. We briefly articulated our lack of, so to speak, showing up ability to the event. And the Eibusher gives us koiches to be there. And then we describe how it's going to be when Mashiach comes. And then we bring it down. What does it bring it down? Number 1, it's going to calm down into people serving the Eibusher. The Kohanim are going to do their job. And right after the pasuk of Kohanim, you say, Bavur David Avdecha. Al Tasha Pnei Meshechachas HaLeviim. Goes into Leviim. That Leviim B'duchana. The pasuk L'chaeda Bavur David doesn't speak about Leviim. It speaks about Mashiach. Okay? But the custom by Yidden is that the pasuk Bavur David is connected to Leviim. So what now is happening is, Mashiach is going to come. And the Eibush is going to be, first of all, in a Maimed Matzav Ben Sayah Ha'aron. Second of all, a Matzav of Menucha Secha, and that's going to come down into the practical avodah of a Yid. The Kohanim and the Leviim. Okay, I don't know what's the connection between Leviim and this pasuk, except to say that when Mashiach comes, Leviim are going to be Kohanim, like it says in the pasuk, but let's leave it alone. What's the next thing? Mashiach is going to come, yeah? And when Mashiach comes, first of all, there's going to be, or as the Rebbe says, that Mashiach's already here, B'pnimius. Ben Sayah Ha'aron. Torah is going to grow. And then there's going to be Lemnucha Secha. There's no place for growth anymore. And it's going to come down to the Veda of Kainim and Levium. And then we say, we will all say at that time, when there is such a great Gilui of Elokus, this is our God. Now you see, we don't say Hini Hashem, we say Hini Elokeinu, right? Elokeinu goes on Tzimtzum. But this Elokeinu is higher than Shem Havai, the Eibishter himself. Kivinu, we waited for him. We had patience, when he helped us. Zeh Havaya, this now we say, Zeh Havaya, this is Havaya, Kivinu, we waited for him. Now Gilav and Nisbach HaMishua say, now we can rejoice in his Yeshua. In other words, Yidden stuck it out with the Eibishter. And La'asad Love it, they're going to get all of these incredible revelations. I just want to add one little nakuda. What is the meaning of the word kivinu? It's from the word kave, which means to hope and to trust, right? But in Chassidus it says kivinu is lashon kav. Every hashpah that comes from the Eibishter to the world has to pass through a channel. Otherwise it doesn't come to us in a receivable way. We set ourselves up. We created channels to get hashpah from Elokeinu. And we created channels to get hashpah from Havaya, and now we're going to experience it. Okay, and let's read. The af, and even though we speak only in singular. It's not only one person, it's all Yidden. The Pasuk says, our God collectively. What happens on that day? The idea of revelation. Skip the parenthesis. Even such things. The revelation of what is hidden becomes revealed. So how does the pasuk begin? The Omar, and he says, Lashon Yachid, Hinei Elokeinu zeh our God, Lashon Rebbe. So the Rebbe says, one Jew is saying, and every Jew is saying. But I'll say it a little bit more brought out. The Omar, the Neshama says, Hinei Elokeinu zeh, the Yetzer Hara, the Nefesh HaBahamas is maskim. Hinei Elokeinu zeh. This is the inyan of Mashiach. This is the inyan of the Yosef Lavi. Okay? Umamshichim, I'm skipping a paragraph. Malchuscha Malchus Chalilamim, the Eibishter is the king of the whole world, and he was a dictator in earlier generations. Says the Maimed, Malchuscha, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nasa Malchus Hashem is the king over the whole world. What is such a king? What's the meaning of the word king? That the people chose him. That Vafilu Bim Hayazman, even in earlier times. Yitzhak bin Memshali was a dictator. Shabal Karchi, he forced himself upon us. Right? But now, Mashiach comes. Hashem is now a melech. He's accepted by the whole world. And then we finish, next paragraph, he says, at that point, all the Elokus that's going to exist in the world is going to be concentrated in Yerushalayim, in Tzion and Yerushalayim, and all goodness and godliness is going to come from Yerushalayim. So the Ataresa finishes describing Mashiach Tzidkenu. And I'll tell you a very interesting thing. The Rebbe has a Sikha called Beis Rivka. I'm sure you've heard of the Sikha. He makes a lot of points in the Sikha. One of the points the Rebbe talks about is when Mashiach comes, every shul in the whole world is going to be brought and live in Israel next to the Beis HaMikdash. And he explains something very profound. He says, the Holy Land is the holy part of the world. Finished. Holiness is the Holy Land. On a higher level, holiness is Yerushalayim. But then, when the Eibishter created the world, he took Yerushalayim, broke it up into pieces. The body of Yerushalayim stays in Yerushalayim, and he sent it into different places. Every shul, every yeshiva is a piece of Yerushalayim. What's the pshat? Mashiach comes, all the shuls and the yeshivas are gathered, brought to Yerushalayim. It doesn't only mean the buildings. It means the geography, the terra firma, the earth. And after Mashiach comes, there is no such thing as holy space outside of Eretz Yisrael. So at that point, it becomes Taka Emes, only Mitzi and Teitzei Seira, and only Yerushalayim as Dvar Hashem. Now, Dvar Dal Damashalachas could be any place in the world, because the Eibishter sprinkled Shtiklach Yerushalayim all over the world. Mashiach comes, then it will be completely Ki Mitzi and Teitzei Seira Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim. So this is the Seder of the Hakafos. We start off saying what is, we continue saying where we are, and we conclude by saying what's going to be when Mashiach comes. And the Rebbe says, after we said 17 psukim that revealed the pnimius of Hakafos, we say a tefillah, betur tefillah. The 17 things are psukim. And what's a pasuk? Psak. When you say a pasuk, you're paskening. In other words, saying a pasuk, you're, so to speak, forcing the hand of the Eibishter. V'lei tefillah, not a prayer, but now we ask. Even when we said before, Imru Eishen Ol Eishen, it was a pasuk. And now we say to the Eibishter, Avarachamim, Father of mercy, Hetiva, be kind, B'tzencha, with your desire, Siyan, with Yerushalayim, Tivnachem is Yerushalayim. Why? Ki b'chol avad b'tachnu. We waited it out. We've stuck it out. We've trusted only you, Melech Kel Yom Nisa Adonai Elam. And then, of course, at the end, the Rebbe finished off by saying that our custom is to say Ufaratzta, and the Rebbe said loud the pasuk V'hoya zaracha kafara aretz Ufaratzta. It never repeated. The Rebbe said it 3 times. What's Ufaratzta? Ufaratzta means very, very simply that Eretz Yisrael expands to encompass the whole world. It's not Ufaratzta. Right? This is Tafshin Ayin, right? Everyone is into the year 770. 770 Gematria Paratzta. The Rebbe once explained, it says Medrash Chazal, Avraham Avinu was given a gift. What was the gift? Wherever you walk is yours. Yitzchak Avinu was given a gift. What was the gift? Whatever you see is yours. Right? And by Yaakov Avinu, Hashem says, the whole world. So the Rebbe said, we finish off, after we say Kimitzi and Teitzei says, Hashem Yishalayim, we say that there's an expansion of Teitzei Yishalayim to encompass the whole world. So before Hakafos, we're describing what Hakafos is. And now, of course, the key is to have a shtickle shaychus to such a yanim. Okay? And there's plenty more to learn, but this is a